थैंक यू सो मच कि आपने हमें ज्वाइन किया और आज वक्त निकाला ऑन अ बिजी वीक. बहुत शुक्रिया.
Pleasure.
And we'll be looking forward whatever you have to say. अगर आप इजाज़त देंगे और बीच में कोई हमारे questions होंगे या ऐसे relevant questions आए तो हम आपसे पूछ सकेंगे.
Sure. So can I make a start?
Yes, sure, please.
Okay, so let me just get my screen sharing on. Okay, so just let me know if you can see my screen so that I can start.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so excellent. Thank you very much, and Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Let me start my bit of the presentation. Thank you very much, ICI, for this unique initiative and for inviting myself and Dr. Sana to this stage. We apologize to our audience because of an IT issue. We've had to run a bit late. So let's make a start. So हमने आज दो topics choose किए हैं. These are the sort of topics you don't get to hear too often. So we thought this being a webinar in COVID times, we will choose certain topics that might be of more interest to you than the usual stuff we discuss about diabetes day in and day out. So I'm going to touch the topic of Ramadan and diabetes first. To your pleasant surprise, I'm not going to share any evidence-based slides with you to bore you. I'm just going to discuss day-to-day cases, diabetes cases that walk into our clinics day in, day out, especially before Ramadan and during Ramadan, that what should be done about their diabetes while they fast, or should they fast or not fast. So I'm going to touch this subject very briefly, and I'm going to base it on the clinical scenarios. So I'm going to throw some clinical scenarios. I would encourage everyone, if you have questions, because this is a webinar, so if you have any questions at any slide or at any point, just post them in the box, the question and answer box. And at the end of this first half of the session, I will answer or try to answer whatever questions you've posted. So let's make a start. So first thing, we all know who is exempt from fasting. So we live in a Muslim country, alhamdulillah, we're all Muslims. Whenever people come to us, they have this faith that we are doctors. Whatever we're going to tell them is going to be based on evidence and science. So if you have someone who you think medically is not fit to fast, or fasting might be risky to their health, you can point them to this ayat. We need to know the reference, because the person, if he or she is going to be convinced, he or she is going to go back, open up the Quran, which all of us should be doing anyway regularly, and they're going to look it up. So to have that credibility, just don't mention that, okay, it says in Quran, ye hai, wo hai, aur aap na rakhein. Give them the reference, and this is the reference for you. It's good to have it handy in your mind so that you can point them in the right direction. They can go home and check. It will help you convince them. So let's move on. I think we should encourage people with diabetes who have suboptimal diabetes control and some other comorbidities, which we'll talk about, not to fast, just because of the health risks. But others and most of the people with diabetes, we can help them and support them to fast safely. So for the ones you feel, as per your medical expertise and experience and assessment, that they should not fast, encourage them to avail the exemption the religion gives them. For those who you feel they can safely fast, help them fast safely. This is what we're going to discuss over the next few slides. We all are aware of the medical risks that can be associated with fasting when a person has diabetes. It's hypoglycemia, it's hyperglycemia. Dehydration would be number one for me, because the part of the world we live in, the fast is going to be a very long fast, and it's coming right in a very hot season. So imagine a 14-16 hour fast right in the middle of May, April in this part of the world. It's going to be tough. For type 1 diabetes, diabetic ketoacidosis will be a big risk. We will touch upon that. Rapid weight loss, although we would all love our type 2 patients to lose weight and hence benefit from Ramadan, but in essence, what we see in our practical lives is people come back after Ramadan despite having had fasted. They either haven't lost any weight, and some people turn up back after Ramadan having gained weight. But medically, therapeutically, rapid weight loss can be a concern, but honestly, it's not that big of a medical concern. Weight loss, type 2 diabetes, it helps. Okay, so last theory slide before we move on to real life cases, clinical cases. These two myths कि जी रोजा जो है वो शुगर चेक करने से टूट जाता है और इंसुलिन लगाने से टूट जाता है. These two myths have been following us in the past. They are following us now, and they will continue to follow us. So ये myths change नहीं होंगी. Just like the myth about metformin and kidney failure, कि जी glucophage और metformin तो गुर्दे खराब कर देती है. तो ये कुछ myths हैं जो कभी change नहीं होंगी. We should not try to change them as well. We can't change them. What we need to do, what we need to have in our armory is, as healthcare professionals, कि अगर आप उसको बता रहे हैं कि नहीं भाई चेक करने से, शुगर चेक करने से रोजा नहीं टूटता है या इंसुलिन लगाने से रोजा नहीं टूटता है, so what is the evidence or what is the rationale behind it? So there are multiple fatwas and consensus statements, etc., on big international scale. These two I picked up because, again, going back to that verse, if you have to convince someone, you have to give them reference. One of them will go back and check. So these are the two references you can use in your everyday practice. And there are multiple of them available, multiple references available. These two, feel free to use them, point them in the right direction. कि ना शुगर चेक करने से रोजा टूटता है, ना इंसुलिन का टीका लगाने से जो है रोजा टूटता है. Convince them with evidence, because that's what we are trained for. Okay. So most people with diabetes, as healthcare professionals, we should be able to support them to fast with their diabetes. What we want to do is, our advice is going to be based on two things. A, their safety. Safety comes first. So if we have to encourage them and support them to fast, we should help them fast safely without any acute medical problems. And that's the main aim. The other thing we need to really highlight and press upon is people who, as per our medical assessment, we feel that they should not fast because it's going to pose certain significant health risks, then we need to discourage them strongly. उन्होंने अपनी मर्जी से कुछ करना हो, that's up to them. We need to be very clear. We need to be very clear when we advise them not to fast, with rational reasoning, not just a blanket statement. Because a blanket statement कि जी आप रोजा नहीं रख सकते, it just kind of put everyone off, and that's natural human instinct. So we need to convince them, but with reasoning and rational discussion. Take them on board why you don't want them to fast, or take them on board why you want them to fast. They can fast, but how? So this is the sort of things we're going to discuss. So in that, the main thing to discuss is pre-Ramadan assessment. Believe me, the sort of culture we live in, most of the phone calls or most of the assessments about pre-Ramadan, हमारे मुल्क में pre-planning नाम की कोई चीज नहीं है किसी भी matter में. Same goes for health as well. So most people who want to discuss that they should fast or not fast, or what should they do with their medicines or their insulin, would either ring you a day before Ramadan is starting, या वो 5-6 रोजे रख चुके होंगे और फिर आपके पास आएंगे. But we should encourage them that from next year or the year after, they should have a proper pre-Ramadan assessment or a meeting with yourself, so that everything can be discussed in detail. It's a health matter. Any problems during the month of Ramadan with diabetes can have significant and potentially life-threatening consequences. So it's not like over the phone or over a WhatsApp kind of thing. It's not a blanket answer. What I've learned over the years, the most helpful thing, people come to me, well, if they turn up to me, कि हम रोजे रख सकते हैं कि नहीं, although these are very few, but those few who do turn up before Ramadan, कि जी हम रोजे रखें या ना रखें, या रख सकते हैं नहीं रख सकते, before opening the big list of questions up, I usually ask them, what did they do the previous Ramadan? पिछले रमजान क्या किया? And people will come up with all sorts of answers कि मैंने अपनी इंसुलिन को ये किया, मैंने अपनी गोली को ये किया, मैंने इफ्तारी पे नहीं ली, मैंने सहरी पे ली. And that's really helpful, because helpfully it may not be aligned with evidence, but that thing that individual person did worked out quite okay for him or her previous Ramadan. So what I would do is कि वो जो उन्होंने पिछले रमजान किया, I would ask them if it worked for them. If it did, I would tailor my advice around that. Obviously, I will make some rational changes to their treatment, dosing, etc., etc. But I will base it around what they did last Ramadan because I know okay, whatever they did last Ramadan worked for them. I would not copy and paste that advice, but I would take it into very serious consideration. That would be my biggest weapon in my diabetes and Ramadan. What did they do last Ramadan? What worked for them? Obviously, then you go through your list, what medications they're taking for their diabetes, insulin, if yes, which one, how frequently, dosing, how frequently do they check, how frequently do they monitor? Because if you're going to encourage and support someone to fast during Ramadan with their diabetes, you would want them monitoring more than they usually do. So you would like to find out what the usual monitoring frequency is before Ramadan on in usual days. It's really important to know about if they have any comorbidities, especially chronic kidney disease. We know कि जिस तरह पौधा पानी के बगैर 3 दिन में धूप में मर जाएगा, kidneys are just like plants. You don't water them adequately every single day, they will wilt. And that's catastrophe. That's asking for huge problems. So do note what comorbid conditions they have, kitni well controlled. And having an HbA1c pre-Ramadan would be a big help in making your decisions. But decisions can be made even if you don't have them, but having an HbA1c pre-Ramadan would be a big help. Do ask about if they're suffering or experiencing hypoglycemia. Kitni frequency hai? Hypoglycemic awareness intact hai ki nahi? Nocturnal raat ke dauran hypoglycemia to na. These are all very important considerations while saying a yes or a no to a person who wants to fast. Every person with diabetes who's a Muslim wants to fast. There's no doubt about it. It's natural, it's instinctive, it's religious. But health comes first. And as we've seen, Allah Ta'ala ne khud exemption di hai. So help them avail the exemption who you feel should not fast. Those who want to fast, support them. You have to tailor your decisions and your management to an individual who's sitting in front of you. One size does not fit all. One reduction in insulin or changes to a dose to a particular agent for diabetes, oral agent for diabetes, will not fit everyone. It has to be tailored, individualized to that single person who is sitting in front of you in clinic on that particular day. I will give you some references towards the end. The most comprehensive reference about diabetes and Ramadan has been published by International Diabetes Federation. It is for healthcare professionals. Do keep in mind that guideline is about 340-page guideline. If you have the guts and the courage and the will, do read it. It's an excellent, amazing document. But you will find after reading those 340 pages that while it's a very useful document, you will have to do a lot of individualization, even if you want to follow those guidelines. So yes, by all means, do read those guidelines, but individualize your decisions. So I'm going to throw some clinical scenarios. ये वो clinical scenarios हैं. The theory part of the presentation has ended. These are the scenarios that you face every single day in our clinic before and during Ramadan. So the sort of advice we're going to give in this scenario, nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It has to be individualized. The advice we're going to give in these scenarios can be tailored to that person. The advice we're going to give is based on guidelines and experience. It's a combination. So let's start. And this is where the fun bit starts. I would have loved to do this workshop in an interactive, in-person manner, but considering COVID restrictions, because होता ये है कि जब हम clinical scenarios throw करते हैं, so lots of interaction pours in. That's not the case, but I will try my best to run through these scenarios so that you do at least have a flavor of how to support or not support people who want to fast. Case 1. And that's a very common scenario which is going to walk in through your doors. 45-year-old male. He has had type 2 diabetes for 4 years. He's got hypertension for 2 years. No other comorbidity, otherwise fit and well. He takes metformin 500 milligram twice daily, glimepiride once daily, and ramipril for blood pressure once daily. So just go through that checklist that we kind of went through early on, and you want to know a few more bits. And here we go. So his HbA1c is 7.5%. His average fasting blood sugar reading at home, which he monitors twice a week, is around 140, and his kidney functions are normal. People may not have known chronic kidney disease, but if someone you're going to support to fast, and if there has been no renal function for the last year or so, it's a must to have the renal functions done. You'll be amazed to find a lot of undiagnosed chronic kidney disease. So please get the renal functions done. Renal function tests are normal. This guy has pretty reasonable glycemic control, considering what sort of glycemic control people have in this country. He is really passionate to fast. And I think he should be okay to fast. No issues, no worries, no comorbidities, reasonable HbA1c. What you don't want him to end up with is hypoglycemia, really. I'm not that concerned about hyperglycemia here. He's running reasonably good control. And a month of slight hyperglycemia would not lead to any long-term complication. What I want to avoid in this case is hypoglycemia. So what I would do is everything else continues unchanged. I would probably reduce his glimepiride to half, from 4 milligrams to 2 milligrams. And I would advise frequent monitoring, adequate fluid intake before sehri, after iftari, and more frequent monitoring. He should be okay, really. Any problems, he can come back. Remember, if you see someone pre-Ramadan or just early on in the Ramadan, the advice you're going to give may need to be changed as per circumstances, as per glucose trends, etc., etc. So ये नहीं है कि आपने एक advice रमजान के शुरू में दे दिया तो वो 30वें रोजे तक उसी तरह चलेगी और perfectly चलेगी. Remember, Ramadan and diabetes are not made for each other. So you can't have perfect diabetes control and fast for 30 days as well. You will have to make some more changes as Ramadan goes on. Remember कि 15-20 रोजे के बाद, if someone is fasting every day, glycogen reserves will start to go down. So the risk of hypoglycemia might just start to go up a little bit. So you might have to tailor your advice as per serial readings. Let's move on. Case 2, 55-year-old female, type 2 diabetes, 6 years, hypertension for 2 years, no other comorbidity, metformin 1 gram twice daily, gliclazide 80 milligram twice daily, losartan 50 milligram once daily. Same things you want to know. HbA1c 6.5. Average fasting home readings, which he does twice a day, is pretty good. Renal function tests are normal. My concern in this person is, yes, by all means, she can fast. She should fast, kind of acquire all the benefits of fasting with regards to lipid control, weight control, etc., etc. My concern only would be she's running very good control, mashallah. So I don't want her to run into hypoglycemia. So what I would stop in this case for the duration of the Ramadan is gliclazide. Metformin, losartan, everything else can continue. Easy peasy. Let's move on. So here's a tricky case. 28-year-old female, she's 30 weeks pregnant. She has gestational diabetes, recent fetal scan, estimated fetal weight, amniotic fluid, all normal. Although she's not sure, but she wants to ask you if she's okay to fast. Again, you go through the same things. Her average fasting readings are pretty okay, even for pregnancy. Renal function tests are normal. We don't need an HbA1c here. She's pregnant. She's got gestational diabetes. HbA1c would not help us much because this is gestational diabetes. So, alluding to the document that I mentioned earlier, if you go through the International Diabetes Federation guidelines for diabetes and Ramadan, there is a separate section on pregnancy and diabetes and fasting. There is not much evidence available to kind of demonstrate the benefits of fasting in terms of maternal-fetal outcomes. There is also not enough evidence to kind of demonstrate the risks to both mother and fetus if the mother does fast, especially if gestational diabetes is either diet control or metformin control. There is no right or wrong answer here. This lady, if you think she's a sensible lady who would do all the other things that you want to advise her, good water intake, regular monitoring, etc., fetal monitoring, she might be quite okay to fast. But my point in this case would be, just in case anything goes wrong, for which there is not much enough evidence. So this is a kind of a evidence light or evidence free zone. So my point would be, and that's me, that she's pregnant. You are looking after or responsible for the health of not only the mother but for the baby as well. If something goes wrong with the baby, although there's not much evidence, then I wouldn't be like to be the person who takes responsibility. It may not happen due to fasting, but due to any other unaccounted reason. But this lady who's pregnant, I would encourage her to avail the exemption the religion gives her and just look after herself. And she will be very easy to convince not to fast just because she's pregnant. However, if she wants to fast, that should be okay as well with monitoring, etc. But if she's my patient, I would try my best with evidence and logical reasoning. As I've said, this area being evidence free, etc., etc. Let's not take any unwanted risks. So I would encourage her not to fast, but you be the best judge for that person who's sitting in front of you. Case 4, 50-year-old male, type 2 diabetes for 15 years, hypertension, takes metformin, 500 twice daily, sitagliptin, dapagliflozin, 5 milligram daily. SGLT2 inhibitors are being used quite a lot these days. So this scenario will pitch into your clinic sooner or later because there are a lot of people with diabetes who are on SGLT2 inhibitors now. So I want to know the same things again. HbA1c 8.5, yes, it's a bit high. But honestly, this is the kind of an average HbA1c we get in Pakistan. So by our standards, yes, bit high, but not that high. Average fasting readings, yes, slightly on the higher side. Renal function tests are normal. This person is very keen to fast. I would sell him the fast this way that, okay, you can fast. I will help you fast safely. But you take advantage of this fasting, get some weight off. We know most of type 2 patients are either overweight or obese. Watch out. I will give him all the dietary advice, which I won't go into detail today because that's beyond the scope of today's discussion. I would give him all the safe advice around fasting and diabetes and eating, what to eat, what not to eat, how much to eat, etc., etc. Fluid intake. I would encourage him to use this month to lose weight, which would indirectly help his diabetes. I wouldn't change any of his treatment because he's not at risk of hypoglycemia, rather not at risk of hypoglycemia, but more hyperglycemia. But if he fasts sensibly, tailors his food intake around the fast as per the advice given, he should be okay to fast. As far as SGLT2 inhibitors are concerned, burning question. There is now evidence available that SGLT2 inhibitors, especially dapagliflozin, has been used in small-scale studies while people have been fasting, and that theoretical risk of getting dehydrated has not materialized. They are okay and safe to continue. So yeah, go for it. No change in treatment. Person should fast, monitor, maybe get him back mid-Ramadan for a reassessment how things are going to, if needed, alter your advice. Case 5, 56-year-old male, type 2 diabetes for 13 years, hypertension, dyslipidemia. He has stable ischemic heart disease. He's had a cardiac stent put in 3 years ago. Metformin 1 gram twice daily, glimepiride 4 milligrams, sitagliptin 100 milligrams. HbA1c 9%. Average fasting home blood sugar level around 170, renal function test normal. I don't know what all of you feel, but this guy is running pretty suboptimal diabetes control. If he did not have a stent put in, so a comorbidity like heart disease, although it is stable, yes, I could have encouraged him to fast and I could have tailored treatment or not changed treatment. But this guy has an HbA1c of 9% and has a stent in. So he's already running pretty high blood sugar levels and he's got a stent in. I really want to preserve his stent and his general health. With HbA1c of 9%, I would try to encourage him to maybe fast next year and maybe use this year to improve his diabetes control. So I would try to sway him not to fast really because of his heart condition, which is not a contraindication to fast at all. But on top of that, he's running very suboptimal diabetes control for the comorbidities that he's had. So if I have to individualize my advice, I would encourage him not to fast. I would encourage him to improve his diabetes control, make some changes, in his treatment, etc., and then he can maybe fast few months down the line or next Ramadan. So this is where I would feel a bit uncomfortable allowing him to fast in view of his comorbidities and suboptimal control. Had he had an HbA1c of 7, 7.5, 8, fine, no issues, even with ischemic heart disease. Next case. 48-year-old male, type 2 for 13 years, hypertension, dyslipidemia, chronic stable kidney disease. He takes insulin, a pre-mixed insulin, 70-30, 10 units twice daily. Now, chronic kidney disease comes in, HbA1c 8%, renal function tests show a creatinine of 2.5, GFR of 30. I would go back to my advice that chronic kidney disease, not any stage, early stages, maybe stage 1, 2, okay, fine, but do consider that, again, we live in a very hot, humid climate, the risk of dehydration. I'm not concerned about his blood sugar readings. I can make changes to his insulin, let him fast with his HbA1c, no problem. I am very concerned about his renal functions. इस किडनी को आपने 3-4 दिन मई और अप्रैल के महीने में पानी पूरा ना दिया तो he can be in big trouble. His creatinine will jump very sharply to the extent of perhaps needing dialysis. And I've had people who have, with chronic kidney disease here in Pakistan, against medical advice, have fasted and have ended up on dialysis. So please, this guy is a big and a stern no with rational reasoning. Instead of no na kare. Communication is important. This is what we're going to discuss about in the next session. It's not just nahin tumhe kidney disease tumhe rakh sakte. So explain to him what are the risks. If you explain, take that extra time and you explain the risk कि क्या-क्या हो सकता है. Hence मैं आपको कह रहा हूँ कि आप रोजे ना रखें. Most people will understand, but it does need some time, some patience, and some communication and convincing skills, which I'm sure all of us have, but in the busyness of clinics and etc., they kind of get lost here and there. So it's a big no for him. Next. 38-year-old male, type 2 diabetes, 6 years, no comorbidity, metformin 1 gram twice daily, pre-mixed insulin 20 units twice daily. I want to know the same things. HbA1c 7%, pretty good. Renal functions test normal. Yes, he should be okay to fast, or he should be okay to fast. All I have to do is support him to fast by making some changes, because the 7% and insulin and long fasting hours, he's at risk of hypoglycemia if we don't change doses. So simple. I would just continue the same evening dose after iftari or with iftari. Sari dose, I would cut it by either 30% or 50%. There's no formula for it. It's kind of based on experience, and there is some evidence in the guidelines that I'm alluding to. So 30 to 50% dose cut at Sari. Iftar dose can continue as the evening dose. More frequent monitoring than usual, with the advice to break the fast if he feels unwell significantly, whatever the blood sugar is, and perhaps a revisit or a rediscussion, maybe 15 days into Ramadan, to see if there are any more changes we need to make, because it's an ongoing thing with insulin. So yeah. Next, case 8, 53-year-old male, type 2 diabetes, 14 years, no other comorbidity. Metformin 1 gram twice daily, glimepiride 2 milligram, and glargine 22 units at night. HbA1c 9.5%, renal function test normal. No comorbidity, very suboptimal glycemic control. What to do, what not to do. If you go by the guidelines, they would favor or incline more towards the significant risk of hyperglycemia he would run if he was to fast, with the risk of dehydration or hyperglycemic hyperosmolar syndrome with type 2 diabetes. On the other hand, if he's sort of a person who is a bit reluctant to listen to rational reasoning, then he can fast. I wouldn't change any of his treatment. I would encourage more frequent monitoring with the kind of commitment that obviously if he's starting to run more high or higher and he's starting to feel unwell, then he should stop fasting. So there's no right or wrong answer here, but with no comorbidities, 9.5% should still be okay to fast. Guidelines would say not to fast, but we have our own beliefs, faiths, etc., etc. So if I were to tailor my advice, I would initially probably think about not convincing him to fast. But if he wants to, I can support him with the agreement that he will keep in touch, monitor more frequently, and that he will stop if he's feeling unwell or the sugar readings are starting to run a bit high. So it's kind of a commitment between you and your patient, mutual shared decision making. Next, 32-year-old male, type 2 diabetes, 8 years, no other comorbidity, metformin, detamir insulin, history of recurrent hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia, as I went through the checklist in my first slide, is something you should check with every person who wants to or not wants to fast. It should be checked at every visit, goes without saying. So all the cases I've presented so far, the above 8 cases, there was no significant or recurrent hypoglycemia. That's why I didn't mention that. Here, there is history of recurrent hypoglycemia. Renal functions are normal, HbA1c 8.5%, suboptimal. It's a big no for this guy because there is recurrent hypoglycemia, and the risk of hypoglycemia would just potentially, well, theoretically multiply if he was to fast. It's a no. Convince him. More hypoglycemia, risk of fall, risk of seizures, etc., etc., etc. He can end up in big problems. I would rather focus more on getting his hypoglycemia right and treated and minimized rather than we discussing fasting or not fasting, why not fasting. So I would focus more on getting his hypoglycemia right. Fasting, no. If he wants to fast off his own accord, fine. You do your bit, you document your bit, you convince him, and you move on. So I think we're almost towards the end. 40-year-old male, type 2 diabetes, 8 years, no other comorbidity, metformin 1 gram twice daily. Here comes liraglutide. We are using a lot of GLP-1 analogs these days. Liraglutide is once daily, subcutaneous injection. HbA1c 7.5%, renal function test norm. Liraglutide, metformin, although they are combined, none of them poses a risk of hypoglycemia theoretically. So if this guy wants to fast, no treatment changes shall be required. With the standard advice that we've just discussed for everyone, he's okay to fast, really, no issues. Last case, 19-year-old male, type 1 diabetes for 11 years. Now, this is the first scenario that involves a person with type 1 diabetes. Takes Glargine 12 units at night, aspart 6 units with meals, no history of recent hypoglycemia. HbA1c 7.5%, pretty good. For type 1, really, it's pretty good. Renal function tests are normal. Now, the simple takeaway message I want to give here is type 1 is a different ballgame. If a person with type 1 wants to fast, if you are a physician, I would, for this, out of all the 11 cases that we have discussed, if there is one case you want to refer or discuss with regards to fasting, is this type 1, irrespective of what control, what complication, because type 1, there is a long checklist we need to go through with them before we can even just comment that he or she should be fasting or not fasting. If he or she, we think, fulfills all the criteria and can safely fast, then there is still a long list of advice, precautions, etc., etc., etc. we need to give them. So if there is any person with diabetes who wants to fast, that you should refer to an endocrinologist is a person with type 1, because they can run into significant and frequent problems while fasting. Yes, we will assess them. We will go through all the checklists. We can help them and support them to fast, maybe perhaps intermittently with a lot of dose changes, etc., etc. morning. But this is something that needs a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of thinking, and a lot to go through. So if anyone you want to refer, that's your type 1 person to an endocrine colleague. So I'm going to finish off. This is the document I was alluding to, Diabetes and Ramadan Practical Guidelines 2021, International Diabetes Federation. It's a very comprehensive document. It's available for free download from the IDF website. Download it, read it, Mind you, you will need a lot of patience. As I've told you, it's a 325-page document, but it's very, very helpful. It's the most comprehensive. It's very good. But at the end of the day, you will still have to do a lot of tailoring to the person who will be in front of you. And this is where I would end. And thank you very much. I think if the moderator allows, we can take some questions before we move on. Thank you very much.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Dr. Atif, for such an elaborative and wonderful talk. And I'm sure the case studies that you presented have been very educational and informative for us. हमारी audience को भी I'm sure जो feedback हमें मिल रहा है और जिस तरह के सवाल आते हैं I'm sure they are enlightened as well. So it has been a real pleasure listening to you. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा चीज़ें आपने इस तरह से explain की कि उसमें जो सवाल जहन में आता था वो आपकी slide के बाद खुद ही address हो जाता था. That has been really nice and wonderful. How often in your opinion, should we motivate patients to get HbA1c done compared to, fasting or random blood glucose? Because usually उन दोनों टेस्ट की तरफ रुझान ज़्यादा होता है.
Exactly. देखें, I'm not going to quote any international guidelines. देखें हमारे so we were working in Pakistan. हमारे हर चीज थोड़ी सी different है, attitudes different है, affordability है, ये है वो है. I think for a person with type 2 diabetes with kind of okayish control, at least twice a year, HbA1c should be done. Twice a year नहीं भी हो रहा तो at least once a year. तो रमजान से पहले तो लाजमी होना चाहिए.
ओके रमज़ान से पहले हर ऐसा इंडिविजुअल जो डायबिटीज जिसकी डायग्नोस्ड है वो एटलीस्ट करवा ले.
Ideally, especially those people who want to fast. So अगर कोई रोजे भी रखने जा रहा है तो HbA1c से उससे कोई हेल्प हो ना हो, मुझे एज हिज और हर हेल्थ केयर प्रोफेशनल काफी हेल्प होगी उसको वो एडवाइस देने में जिसके साथ वो फिर सेफली रोजे रख सकता है. या अदरवाइज आई माइट आस्क समवन नॉट टू फास्ट विद रीजनिंग ऑब्वियसली, बट as I said, not many people turn up before Ramadan. Quite a few people would start to fast without advice based on their own experiences, and then they will turn up if they're experiencing a problem. Like during Ramadan, 10 रोजे गुजर गए, पहले 10 अच्छे गुजर गए, अब प्रॉब्लम आने शुरू हो गए, अब वो हमारे पास आएंगे. At that time, yes, if they still have or can get an HbA1c done, helpful. Otherwise, we'll have to just go by the flow of what information monitoring is available. So it's kind of a as I said, it has to be individually tailored.
Okay. And HbA1c की जो significance है वो यही है कि आपका past record वो आप बता सकता है कि 3 महीने से मुसलसल ज़ियाबतीस बढ़ी हुई थी या कंट्रोल में थी.
बिल्कुल. अगर कोई शख्स बड़ा frequently monitor कर रहा है तो और HbA1c नहीं भी करा के आया तो then even those readings which he or she is doing are really very helpful. But जो इसे कहते हैं ना कि concrete decision making के लिए HbA1c would help a lot. HbA1c हो या ना हो, even that can be secondary, but renal functions though it's a must. I am extremely reluctant to allow anyone to medically to start fasting अगर उनका कोई पिछले 3-4 महीने 6 महीने में ना कोई renal function नहीं हुआ. That's something that really is very scary.
Okay. And if we talk about kidney disease or chronic kidney disease, so इस किस्म के लोगों के लिए जिनको mild to severe chronic kidney disease है, what should be the priority as per protocols for initial therapy? Because metformin से थोड़ी एहतियात की जरूरत है.
देखिए माइल्ड मॉडरेट सीवियर की असल में हमारे यहाँ लोग खुद ही एक्सट्रैपोलेट कर लेते हैं डेफिनेशंस के, जी माइल्ड क्या है, और अक्सर लोगों को तो ये भी नहीं पता अगर उनको माइल्ड है भी बायोकेमिकली उनके टेस्टों पे आ रही है तो अक्सर तो उनको यही नहीं बताया जाता कि उनको माइल्ड किडनी डिजीज है. तो माइल्ड मॉडरेट सीवियर अगर हम वो क्राइटेरिया पे जाएं जो बायोकेमिकली एग्रीड इंटरनेशनल क्राइटेरिया हैं तो फिर तो एक सेफ सेंसिबल एडवाइस दी जाती है कि माइल्ड है, जैसे स्टेज 1 कहते हैं, स्टेज 1 शुड बी ओके. स्टेज 2 ऑनवर्ड्स it becomes very risky for the risk of dehydration. और as I said कि yes there is evidence कि वो जो स्कैंडिनेवियन बाकी कंट्रीज हैं जहाँ इतनी गर्मी नहीं होती वहाँ कुछ पॉपुलेशन को रोजे रखवाए, they've been okay etc. हमारे यहाँ गर्मी बहुत ज्यादा है, रोजा बहुत लंबा है, द रिस्क ऑफ डिहाइड्रेशन इज सिग्निफिकेंटली हाई. सो माइल्ड डिजीज स्टेज 1 तक तो ठीक है, स्टेज 2 एंड ऑनवर्ड्स इट्स वेरी रिस्की. स्टेज 2 एंड ऑनवर्ड्स हमारा शुगर कंट्रोल इज नॉट अ प्रायोरिटी फॉर रमजान. किडनी को सेव रखना और उसको डिटीरिएशन से बचाना इज अ बिग प्रायोरिटी.
ओके ओके. लेकिन क्या मेटफॉर्मिन दी जा सकती है ऐसे मरीजों को, या कॉन्ट्राइंडिकेटेड है?
देखिए मेटफॉर्मिन क्रॉनिक किडनी डिजीज में जब जीएफआर उनका, आई एम गोना टॉक अबाउट जीएफआर बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑडियंस इज हेल्थ केयर प्रोफेशनल. सो व्हेन द जीएफआर इज बिलो 30, मेटफॉर्मिन तो वैसे ही किसी किडनी पेशेंट को नहीं देनी, इरिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ के रमजान आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है, ठीक है. 30 से पहले तो वी डू प्रिस्क्राइब मेटफॉर्मिन. जो लोग मेटफॉर्मिन पे हैं, किडनी डिजीज नहीं है, वो तो दे कैन सेफली कंटिन्यू मेटफॉर्मिन ड्यूरिंग रमजान. रमजान और डिहाइड्रेशन का मेटफॉर्मिन के साथ कोई बहुत सिग्निफिकेंट वो रिस्क नहीं है, इसलिए मेटफॉर्मिन इज अ वेरी जिसे कहते हैं बिनाइन सी दवाई है फॉर इवन continuing in fasting. As you've seen in my scenarios, a lot of metformin, everyone we continued. Kidney disease को not for the fate of metformin but for the sake of dehydration is the main risk.
ओके ओके. और यही है बिकॉज हमारा वेदर ऐसा है, क्लाइमेट ऐसा है कि रमजान में इसकी हमें खुसूसी एहतियात रखनी चाहिए.
Yep.
ओके ओके. और इसके लिए सहरी या इफ्तार के वक्त, जिस तरह आपने उस वक्त सजेस्ट भी किया कि हमें वाटर इनटेक या लिक्विड इनटेक इस तरह से थ्रू आउट रखनी चाहिए नॉन फास्टिंग पीरियड में, कि ड्यूरिंग द डे ये चीज़ मेंटेन हो सके,
बिल्कुल,
स्पेशली उन
एब्सोल्युटली,
लोगों को जो रोज़ा रख सकते हैं. और
एब्सोल्युटली.
और इसमें जिस तरह से आपने शुरू में रेफरेंस भी दिया कि अल्लाह की तरफ से भी कहाँ कहाँ इजाज़त है, कहाँ कहाँ इजाज़त नहीं है, तो इन चीज़ों को मद्देनज़र रखते हुए अपनी एज, अपनी बॉडी, फिजिकल और मेडिकल कंडीशन को मद्देनज़र रखते हुए चूज़ कर सकते हैं कि रोज़े रखे जा सकते हैं और कितने रखे जा सकते हैं.
जी जी, एब्सोल्युटली एब्सोल्युटली. सो हम हेल्थ केयर प्रोफेशनल्स हैं. अगर हमें किसी को कहना है कि नहीं इट इज नॉट सूटेबल और सेफ, तो हमें ये सारे रेफरेंसेस इस्तेमाल करने चाहिए, क्योंकि लोग रोजा रखना चाह भी रिलीजियस, इट्स अ रिलीजियस थिंग, सो वो रिलीजन का एलिमेंट बहुत स्ट्रांग है. तो अगर हमने भी अपने आर्ग्यूमेंट्स स्ट्रांग करने हैं तो हमें मेडिकल आर्ग्यूमेंट्स के अलावा ये वाले रिलीजियस आर्ग्यूमेंट्स भी देने चाहिए, व्हिच आई हैव कोटेड. दैट विल जस्ट मेक perhaps make your advice more stronger and more likely to sink in.
ओके ओके. अच्छा, फास्टिंग जो है दैट आल्सो कैन सिग्निफिकेंटली इंप्रूव द HbA1c लेवल्स?
जी जी, fasting has been shown to improve HbA1c levels, but that depends on a lot of factors. कि
ओके
आपका फास्टिंग से पहले HbA1c कितना है, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, ड्यूरेशन ऑफ डायबिटीज शॉर्ट है या साल हर साल की डायबिटीज है. एंड देन ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट कि हाउ मच एफर्ट एंड डिसिप्लिन यू पुट इन इनटू योर फास्ट. सो एज आई सेड ना कि द बिगेस्ट रिस्क फैक्टर फॉर हैविंग डायबिटीज या diabetes not being controlled is being overweight or obese. And in actual clinical practice, रमजान से अच्छा मौका तो नहीं है वेट लॉस का, ठीक है. पूरी दुनिया में इस वक्त इंटरमिटेंट फास्टिंग का बड़ा वो है, बिकॉज इट हेल्प्स यू लूज वेट एंड दिस प्रोटेक्ट फ्रॉम डायबिटीज, प्रोटेक्ट फ्रॉम कैंसर. बट व्हाट वी अनफॉर्चुनेटली सी इन आवर सेटअप इज के हमारे जो पेशेंट्स हैं, जिनको who should ideally use this opportunity to lose weight and hence improve their diabetes, they come back to us after Ramadan with having not lost any weight, rather gained a few kilograms just because of the stuff we eat during this Ramadan month. So we all know कि हम किस किस्म की चीजों में indulge होते हैं खाने पीने की during Ramadan. So actually we don't medically end up benefiting that much from Ramadan as we should. So dietary advice should be a key part and parcel of the diabetes education that we give to our patients. Obviously, I didn't cover that because it was beyond the discussion today.
ओके ओके, ठीक है. अच्छा, कोई कोई ऐसी मेडिसिन्स हैं जो ड्यूरिंग फास्टिंग डायबिटीज के लिए अगर ली जाएं तो चांसेस ऑफ हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया बढ़ सकते हैं या बढ़ जाते हैं? जनरली तो डायबिटिक पेशेंट को हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया के चांसेस बढ़ेंगे, जब वो एंटी ग्लाइसीमिक्स पर होगा, बट कोई ऐसे मॉलिक्यूल्स हैं स्पेसिफिकली दैट कैन नॉट बी सो बेनिफिशियल इफ यू आर फास्टिंग?
देखिए वही मॉलिक्यूल्स जो आम दिनों में हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया का रिस्क इंक्रीज करते हैं, वही मॉलिक्यूल्स रमजान में भी हाइपोग्लाइसीमिया का रिस्क फर्दर इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं, लाइक योर सल्फोनाइलयूरियाज, योर ग्लिक्लोजाइड, योर ग्लामिप्राइड, योर ग्लाबेनक्लामाइड, सल्फोनाइलयूरियाज प्लस इंसुलिन। ऑब्वियसली अगर सल्फोनाइलयूरियाज के साथ और एजेंट्स यूज हो रहे हैं, ओरल एजेंट्स, so as we discussed in one of the scenarios, we did end up cutting the sulfonylurea dose just to avoid that risk of hypoglycemia. Insulin and sulfonylureas would be the two things that we need to watch out for hypoglycemia.
ओके ओके। अच्छा, हमारे पास ये भी रिक्वेस्ट आ रही हैं और क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं कि एडवाइस, डाइटरी एडवाइस ऑन डायबिटीज विद फास्टिंग। तो अगर आप अभी कहना चाहें या देना चाहें, या डॉक्टर सना से जो आपकी टॉक होगी ड्यूरिंग दैट यू कैन बी एबल टू कवर दैट।
डॉक्टर सना, if she's here, she can maybe comment it now, क्योंकि वो जो अगला टॉपिक है वो totally different है, so हम उसको बिल्कुल उस टॉपिक पे we would prefer to have questions.
So any dietary advice?
जी डॉक्टर सना।
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन, थैंक यू डॉक्टर मिसबा ये सवाल पूछने के लिए। आई थिंक डाइटरी एडवाइस वुड वेरी, अगर जो लोग फास्टिंग, सो नंबर वन इट हैज टू कम फ्रॉम अ डाइटिशियन, बट हैविंग सेड दैट सहरी में ऐसे फूड्स खाना जिनमें फाइबर कंटेंट ज़्यादा है या वाटर का कंटेंट ज़्यादा है, दैट्स वेरी बेनिफिशियल एंड हेल्पफुल इन सस्टेनिंग यू थ्रू आउट द डे। या प्रोटीन्स लेना, बिकॉज वो प्रोटीन्स आहिस्ता आहिस्ता डाइजेस्ट होकर सारा दिन आपकी शुगर लेवल्स को स्टेबल रखते हैं। एंड एट द सेम टाइम जो हमारा इस वक्त, क्योंकि गर्मी भी हो गई हुई है, स्पेसिफिकली कराची में, लाहौर में इट्स गेटिंग प्रीटी हॉट नाउ, तो जो ऐसे फूड्स हैं जिनके अंदर वाटर कंटेंट ज़्यादा है, जिस तरह अगर आप सैलेड का एक बोल खा सकें, या ऑमलेट्स हैं, या प्रोटीन्स हैं, दे विल कीप योर ब्लड शुगर लेवल स्टेबल थ्रू आउट द डे, एज वेल एज हेल्प यू अवॉइड डिहाइड्रेशन ड्यूरिंग दैट पीरियड। बाकी इफ्तारी में अगेन हम लोग ओवर ईट कर जाते हैं एकदम से, सो स्टार्टिंग विद मील्स दैट गिव यू अ गुड एनर्जी बूस्ट, बट डू नॉट टेक योर शुगर लेवल्स वेरी हाई राइट अवे। उनके साथ इफ्तारी को स्टार्ट करना जो है वो इम्पोर्टेंट है। सो अवॉइड ड्रिंकिंग जूस राइट अवे, मे बी पानी पी के आप रोजा खोलें, और साथ फिर ऐसे फूड्स लें जो दैट गिव यू एनर्जी, बट एट द सेम टाइम डू नॉट स्पाइक योर लेवल्स ऑल ऑफ अ सडन।
एक और चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगा, and that's in the guideline as well, which I've referred to, कि people should try, although it's easier said than done, कि people should try to split their total intake. मसलन रोजे की जो भी total intake है इफ्तारी और सहरी मिला के उसको kind of 50-50 split. I know it sounds a bit not practical, but जो भी उनकी total intake है सहरी और इफ्तारी मिला के, कोशिश करें कि उसको ना 50-50 स्प्लिट करें, या उसका टोटल आधा सहरी पे हो। यूजुअली एज पर द रूटीन एंड एज पर वो जो स्लीप पैटर्न हो सारा, यूजुअली आवर सहरी इज प्रीटी लाइट यूजुअली, एंड जो सारी कसर है वो इफ्तार पे निकल जाती है। तो आई नो उसको
बैलेंस कर लें उसको,
एग्जैक्टली उसको बैलेंस मुश्किल है, बट ट्राई टू रिस्टोर दैट बैलेंस टू एन एक्सटेंट के I know 50-50 टोटल तो उसका नहीं हो सकता, बट मे बी 60-40 और व्हाटएवर, ताकि वो सारे का सारा जो बैलेंस है वो इफ्तार के वक्त टिल्ट ना हो जाए, क्योंकि उससे फिर वो बहुत बड़ी स्पाइक्स आती हैं और वो सस्टेन्ड स्पाइक्स होती हैं। इसलिए कि इफ्तारी के बाद अक्सर लोग फिर रात का खाना भी होता है, तो वो सुबह तक ना वो सारा लिंगर हो रहा होता है, तो आपके 12 घंटे काफी हाइपरग्लाइसीमिया में गुजर सकते हैं।
ओके ओके, नहीं दैट्स अ वैल्यूएबल एडवाइस कि आपकी बॉडी या इंसुलिन या पैनक्रियाटिक फंक्शन का बर्न आउट ना हो जाए, क्योंकि आप एक तरफ लोड डालेंगे और एक तरफ कम खा रहे होंगे, तो उनको बैलेंस कर लें और एक मुनासिब उसमें ले आए क्वांटिटी में, क्योंकि कम खाना ऑब्वियसली उसका अपना नुकसान है, और ज़्यादा खाने का डायबिटिक पेशेंट को तो सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज ही यही होता है। ठीक है, थैंक यू हमने इनफैक्ट डॉक्टर सना से क्वेश्चन भी ले लिया।